Hey guys, so Prisma came out with a new integration with Heroku that makes it super easy to deploy there. So we're going to take a look at how you actually can do that. So if you haven't already, you're going to go and create a Prisma cloud account. So that's over at app.prisma.io. You want to create an account, log in, and you should see a screen like here. And you want to go over to servers. So what we're going to do here is, before we do anything with our actual code that we wrote, is set up the Prisma service on Heroku. So we can create a new server, and I'm just going to call mine test service. And now I'm going to create a new one here, and now you'll notice there's a new integration place, and we can click on Heroku here. And it looks like there's going to be some cool ones in the future coming up. But we click on that, and here you can log into your account. I've already logged into my Heroku account. And what it's going to do is actually create the instance on Heroku. So here you can see it's setting up both the Prisma service and the database. Now this part is only setting up the database. We haven't actually set up the service yet. So here's the database. We can choose our options that we want. I'm going to go with the free version for now, and you can pick the region and whatnot. And now it's deploying a database to Heroku that I can use, right? And then after this is done, we're going to be setting up the server. So click on set up server, click on Heroku. Again, I'm going to go with the free. And now we have both a server, so the Prisma service, and our database hosted on Heroku. And you can see how fast we were able to set that up, so that's super nice. And now this takes a couple seconds to boot up, and when it's done, we'll have a URL that we can use. Alright, so my server's finished booting up, and I can now click on it, and it'll be taken to a screen where I can actually see the URL of my service. And I can also look at it on Heroku if I want to. But now I can use this URL as my Prisma service. And you can use this if you have an existing project, and you can also use it if you want to create a new one. So now when I do Prisma init, you should see your service in the list of possible things you can select. So now I can see here's my test service that I have. So if I were to click on this, it would go ahead and set things up, and I would be connected to my Heroku instance. But we're not going to do that. I already have a project right here. So I have a little project that I made using the GraphQL CLI. So I just did GraphQL create my app 5. So that's what this is. And right now I'm connected to the Prisma just like the public cluster. So what I want to do is I want to change this to my Heroku instance now. So I can take this URL that I have, and I can just replace it in my endpoint. So this is in my database folder, prisma.yaml. And we're going to replace that. So now it's my Heroku URL / my app5 dev. And then we also want to change in our index, and I'm using TypeScript, but the same thing would work for JavaScript. And we're going to replace this part right here. And oops, I want to replace this with my Heroku instance. So copy that again. And so now both our application, and now when I deploy, it's going to be pointed at this service. So now what I can do is say not yarn but Prisma deploy, and it's going to write the model to our database. So it's done deploying, and now if I come back over to the Prisma cloud, I can go to services. I can see I now have a new my app 5 service. Now we don't have any data yet in it, but we would be able to see this if we did, and we're about to add some data right now. So I'm going to come back over here and just do yarn start. So I'm starting my server up locally, and now locally it's still connected to this server, my Heroku server. So if I come over to localhost 4000, I can actually make some requests. So I'm going to create a draft right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click run, and it's going to create a draft over here. And if we come back over here, we'll be able to see our data. We can do a little refresh. And sure enough, our data populates. So we can see here's the little one that we inserted here. And we can see here's some data that they pre-populate. That data, if you go into seed.graphql, you can see the data that it pre-populates it with. But anyway, we're now accessing our Heroku service locally. Now what I want to do is actually deploy this server we have right here. And so to do that, I'm just going to say Heroku. And I've already logged in. I'm using the Heroku CLI. I'm going to do Heroku create to create a Heroku app. Now I've made some changes to my application right here, so I need to make sure and commit them. So I'm going to say use Heroku URL. And two things, I have a proc file right here, so it works with Heroku. Now I'm using TypeScript, so the location of my thing is going to be in dist/index.js. You can just have this be node index.js or node source/index.js if you're using JavaScript. And then also, if you're using TypeScript, you want to make sure and have a post install that runs the TypeScript compiler when you go ahead and run this. So that's in your package.json. Alright, so I have a Heroku. I'm just going to do git push Heroku master, and it's going to push up my code to Heroku. Alright, so finished pushing up to Heroku, I can actually copy this URL that I have, and I can go to my server now. And now my server is deployed on Heroku, and so is the Prisma service, and so is the database. And I can just grab the posts if I want to. So let's see what we can run here. So I want drafts, and I want to see the ID and the title and the text, and we can see if we see the one that we added, and sure enough we see it here. So perfect. So we set up a couple things here. So we have going through the Prisma cloud, we set up a server and also a database, and we deployed to it, and so now we have a service over here where we can see our data. And if we want to, we can also click on this little playground link here, and you'll notice we'll be taken to the service Heroku app. So these are two different things. So you can see I'm on Salty Taiga here, or Taiga, and here I'm on test service. So this is our Prisma service, and we can see there's different things here. So I could run posts here, and you can see all the posts, and we can see the one we made, and there's a couple other ones. These are filtered by is published. So you'll notice we only show the ones that are false on our application, but there's actually more in the database. So you could see and access all that stuff here, and you can see it in the Prisma. You can see all the data here as well if you want to. And then we also just deploy this. So it's actually two separate things and then a database add-on in total. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope that helps you and gives you an idea of how to deploy this to Heroku.